Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about the topic, how do I handle a quarter-life crisis? The other day I was speaking to a friend and she said, I'm having a quarter-life crisis. I'm not in a relationship and I want to be married by 30. Seeing as I'm 27, I'd probably have to literally meet that person tomorrow in order to be getting married by 30. And then professionally, I'm considering two different fields with where I want to go with my career, which might mean taking a step back and going into a more entry-level role. For me, I feel like I don't have anything in my life in order or in place. How do I make myself feel better? So I think the first point I would say is existential crises are obviously not fun, but reflection from time to time is good. So again, I think an existential crisis implies you're in a state of feeling panic, from feeling inadequate or not successful or not where you want to be at this moment. And a lot of those feelings might be coming from overthinking, overanalyzing, being too hard on yourself, not having perspective. But it happens to all of us, even in those that keep a good head space around us. All of us kind of have it, usually, for the most part, at some point or another. I guess what I'm trying to say is existential crises are viewed very negatively, but I think there are aspects of it that are positive. For example, the fact that you're evaluating your life. I do think it's important from time to time to take a step back and look at the whole picture and see where you're at and evaluate all that's going on in your life. I think a lot of us kind of mindlessly live and don't often evaluate the different variables in our life. And maybe, the term can go from existential crises, at whatever age, 18, 22, 25, 30, 35, 40, to, life evaluation at this given age. And then the other thing I would say on the flip side, I guess, is I think there is a healthy amount of reflecting and then there's an unhealthy amount. For example, I would say reflecting every month might not be healthy because I think that's too quick of a time interval to judge major aspects of your life. But maybe, 6 months or a year or, every 2 years is a good time interval to kind of reflect on things. And then the other aspect that I'll say is good. Usually people are upset in an existential crisis. Obviously I don't want anybody to be upset, but I do think it's a lot of being upset comes from the fact that you want good things to happen in various aspects of your life. And you're hoping for that and you're working hard for that. And I think that's a healthy quality in terms of, where you're being upset comes from care. So I hope all that makes sense. I guess what I'm trying to say is, there is some positive, even though it doesn't always feel good, to, maybe not an existential crisis, but like a good reflection on life. I think my second level of advice, I think, and again, I don't mean to attack people's anxiety, is just to remember what little help panicking it does for you. Your situation doesn't get helped by anxiety. And so I think what I would do is, if you're in this position, take it, a couple deep breaths, maybe go for a walk or exercise, and then ask yourself, what do I control? And for me, how I look at it is I can only control the present, today, and so that's what I'm going to focus on. I think, existential crises often happen because we're trying to find out where we're going to end up 5, 10, 15, what's the path we're on. And certainly I think it's important to have goals and think about where you'll be in 2, 3, 5 years. But I think it's important to also stay within a reasonable amount of time, which is today, this month, 6 months from now, within the year. And then the second aspect of control is the variables and how you're living, right? There's a quote, I think, time is simply how you're living your life. So my third piece of advice is, how can you better your situation? In all adversities in life, the situation is the situation. For example, for my friend, she's single at 27. That's just the situation. We don't always control that aspect, but we do control how we respond to it. And so basically my point is, instead of going to anxiety, go into strategy and action. That's the only way your situation is going to change, be helped, etc., etc. So ask yourself, what are the situations in my life, that I care about, or what are the variables that I care about? How am I currently doing? Where would I want to see them? And how can I start working toward getting to where I would like to see them? So, for example, and obviously this is different for every person, but let's say your important variables are career, relationship, friends, family, right? You would then evaluate each one with those 4 things. Where am I? Where I want to be? How can I try and improve the situation and bridge the gap? So, for my friend, she's 27, single, wants to be in a relationship. Then the next question is, how do I improve the situation? This aspect is kind of tough because it requires self-reflection. Your problem may be you're not putting yourself in enough situations to meet enough people. In that case, the question becomes, how do you increase the number of people you're meeting? Can you start hanging out with friends at work? Can you join an adult sports league? Can you join a professional networking group? Or maybe it's not putting yourself out there. It's about you're going on dates, but they're not leading to anything long term. Well, then you'll have to evaluate, am I saying yes to the right people? Am I giving those people enough chances, i.e. enough dates or enough time to develop? Or is the problem me? Do I need to work on something internally to make people more confident that I'd be a good long-term partner? The fourth thing I would ask you to reflect on is your worriedness coming from you or society? I think, for example, for my friend, I think the reason she's extremely self-conscious is because society has perpetuated this idea that you need to be married by 30. And she has a couple of friends already engaged, so it kind of is, adding on to the problem. I guess my main thing is, if it's coming from you, I guess, again, I go to being desperate is not going to help. Feeling anxiety is not going to help. I think, for example, in the relationship aspect, feeling desperate to get into a relationship might lead you to entering a relationship that's not really meant for you. If it's coming from society, I think part of life is developing that skill of ignoring that. As individuals, we have to live our own lives. We all don't fit into one basket when it comes to certain societal things like getting married by 30. And I think if you are getting pressure from outside people, I think the question is, what's the difference between 31 and 30? Or 32 and 30? I think society sets these standards, but how different is 32 from 30? Especially when you're going to live another 50 to 70 years. And that brings me to my fifth point is, what's your relationship with patience? I think for most of us, with the average life expectancy going up, we'll hopefully live between 70, 80 to 100 years, hopefully. So what's the rush? Obviously, I'll give one caveat, which is women who want children. There is a certain timing factor for having children, and hopefully getting most of that, done by 40 if you can. I get that pressure. That's a reasonable concern, but I think with professional things, it seems like everybody's, especially in a corporate environment, everybody's in a rush to rise up, and it's like, when have you seen a 30-year-old CEO? Most business leaders in C-suite are 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, what's the rush for success? Is it to show off to your friends, or, I don't know. I think we have to realize things take time. Good things take time. So I hope these 5 things help, understanding, the positives of going through an existential crisis, like understanding healthy reflection from time to time is good. Being upset and wanting things to be better is a healthy goal. I think after that, realize that panicking or anxiety won't help you. What will help you is action and strategy, and really going into self-reflection on how things are going and what things need to change. And then I would say, fourth, evaluate whether the worriedness is coming from you or society and work on that. And then fifth, develop a better relationship with patients. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to put some comments below, and hope this helped. Thanks, guys.